understand that the same universal laws which exist outside should exist inside the religion of Islam as well. In Islam we also need to have glorification, submission, obedience. The two have to go hand in hand, otherwise we are swimming against the tide. It doesn't make sense that the world around us is flowing in one direction. We, because Allah has granted us free will, we choose to swim in another direction. We'll always be against the tide, we'll always be battling, we'll always be miserable, we'll always be unhappy, we will not be successful. So, when we understand properly these principles and we devote ourselves and we make a conscious decision that now I'm going to abide by the laws of God, I'm tired of swimming against the tide, I'm tired of leading this life where I'm constantly battling against myself and my desires and my selfishness. That will produce something so beautiful that we call yaqeen, certainty. I am now certain that what I'm doing is correct. Most people, most human beings that go through this world will suffer from doubt. And that is one of the main killers in life. Doubt. It eats at you. It doesn't let you feel good. It eats at your mind and heart. You want to know things. You want to discover things, but you have doubts. Those doubts will eat at your soul and your mind. But when you commit yourself to a path, that produces yaqeen. One thing which we need to be aware of is that the young minds are searching for this. Young minds, those who are of college and university age, are searching for this yaqeen. Do you see how our youngsters go into college and university? At least I can talk about my country. I'm not so much sure about the situation here, but I don't think it's going to be much different. They'll go into university or college. It's the first time they're alone. They're away from parents. They have to stand on their own 2 feet. And immediately on entering college and uni, they see all around them tens, if not hundreds, of different clubs, societies, groups. It's the same here, isn't it? It must be the same. You have religious groupings. So you may have Ahlul Bayt society, you may have Islamic society, you may have, humanitarian groups, charitable groups, sports groups, groups which are designed to have fun, to have as much fun as possible in the 3 or 4 years of university. They have different groups. And you'll see that at this young age, their hearts will be won over by one particular group. Hearts naturally are seeking certainty. They're seeking something to cling on to. Let me give you one more example with one salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. In the States, there were a few, this is in reports, you can find these reports online. There were a few cities, maybe 30, 40 years ago, in which these cities had a problem of gangland warfare, gang wars. Different areas, different races, different colors would make gangs and they would fight. Why do young people go towards gangs? They know it's wrong, they know it's against the law, they know it's dangerous, but they are attracted towards gangs because of this need of belonging, this sense of certainty, that they want to belong to something. So when they discussed, how do we get rid of these gangs? How do we break this bond? Because what holds a gang together is that bond, is that sense of allegiance. How do we break this bond of the gangs? So guess what they did? They said, in order to break this allegiance, we will introduce drugs. Highly addictive drugs, heroin, cocaine and the like. Because what happens is, when you start taking drugs, you move from selflessness into selfishness. You become very selfish. Because the drug is all about your own personal high, your personal buzz of the mind. You see? So when a person becomes addicted to a personal drug, an addiction, he could kill his own brother, father, sister, mother, it doesn't matter. He must have his drug fix. So young people, you know, it takes that kind of measure to break them apart. So people naturally will gravitate towards groups and gangs and these kinds of things because they're looking for something. We call it, in the language of Islam, we call it yaqeen, certainty. Outside we can call it gang, group, cult, club, whatever it may be, obsession, addiction, it could be anything. So people are looking for this kind of thing. Islam says that you want yaqeen and certainty in life, you can have it, but it's not easy. Now this is where we face the challenge to explain to our youngsters today. Everything is at the touch of a button. When I want something, I have a rectangular piece of gadgetry in my pocket, call it Apple, call it Samsung, call it any name you wish. I punch a few keys in there, I press search, and voila, I'm given the answer. Anything I want to know, anything I want to read, anything I want to research, it's accessible, it's in the palm of my hand, I'm obsessed by it, I'm always on it. Islam is not like that. Islam is not a religion of just put in a word and search and you get the answer. Islam is a religion of soul-based activity, which requires amal and action. It doesn't come with instant gratification. If ever you hear, I'm saying this as a general principle, if ever you hear someone say to you, I can show you a quick way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then ask yourselves, did the Ma'asumeen have a quick way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Was there a very easy and quick way? Or were the lives of the Ma'asumeen filled with challenges, tribulations, trials, death of loved ones, death of the self in most painful circumstances? So we have to be very careful. Islam is a religion of effort, it's a religion of perseverance, but it's a religion of ultimate reward. This activity comes in the form of ibadat, worship, acts of worship. And every act of worship, so I'm just finishing off my yesterday's discussion. Every act of worship should not be taken at face value. Every act of worship that we do is not to be taken at face value, because everything in this universe has two sides to it. A hidden and a apparent. A zahir, apparent, and a batin, a hidden. Even the names that we commonly just bounce around, we don't think twice sometimes about what we say, even these have a deeper reality. Let me tell you regarding our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. Someone comes to our sixth Imam and says, Yabna Rasulillah, O Imam, tell me, why was the Holy Prophet known as Abul Qasim? His title was Abul Qasim. Why was he known as this? Imam said he had a son called Qasim who had died in a young age, therefore he took the title Abul Qasim, father of Qasim. The man said, no, I know this already. From history I know this. I feel in my heart there is something else deeper in this matter. Can you shed some more light? Imam said, okay, now you are asking me for that deeper reality. Let me tell you. He said to him that, you know, in Islam, a person has three levels of parents. His biological parent, his in-laws, and his teachers. These are all, they have the haqq of a parent. He says, yes, I know this. He says, who was the biggest student of Rasulullah? He said, well, the biggest student of Rasulullah was Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. So he says, if Ali was the student of Rasulullah, then Rasulullah has the haqq of a parent over Ali. Yes or no? Yes. He said, tell me one of the titles of Mawla, of Amirul Mu'mineen. It was Qasimun Nari wal Jannah, the person who will distribute and separate people into categories. On the Day of Judgment, when we are sorted and we are accounted for, it will be up to the first Imam to say, he's in heaven, he's in hell, he's in heaven, he's in hell. Qasimun Nari wal Jannah, the one who separates people into hell and heaven. Is it right or not? He said, yes. He said, what do you call that kind of person? He said, we call it Qasim or Qasim. Two words meaning almost the same thing. So he said, right. So a deeper level of reflection is this. Mawla is Qasim. Rasulullah being the teacher of Mawla is his father. Therefore his name is Abul Qasim. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So everything, brothers and sisters, everything you can think of has a hidden and an apparent. Do not take Islam at face value. Islam is very deep. Unfortunately, because we remain at surface level, because we remain uncommitted, we haven't done the hard work, we can only appreciate it at a surface level. But believe me, there are secrets in the beauty of Islam. Were we to know them, we would be completely mesmerized and perplexed. We would be on a different way of living. The Holy Prophet and the other prophets came and they have a famous narration. Nahnu ma'ashir al-anbiya nukallimun nas biqadri uqulihim. We, the prophets sent by Allah, have been told and ordered to speak to people as per their intellect. People cannot take so much. Therefore, you'll find many times, you'll find one person coming to the 8th Imam and asking one question and receiving one answer. Another person comes and asks the same question, he'll receive a slightly different answer. Why? Imam knows the level at which to pitch his answers. He knows people are not all the same. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a series of ibadats. Each ibadat has a hidden and an apparent. Our goal is to go beyond the apparent and access the hidden reality. The apparent reality of every act of worship is the physical performance. So if I ask someone, what is namaz? We would say namaz is an intention, a series of movements and a series of recitations, right? That's namaz. But that is namaz in this world. What will namaz be in the next world? Roza. What is a roza? It is to remain without certain things from Fajr until Maghrib. That is roza here. But roza there is something else. Roza there will not come as a series of laws. Rozas will not come as a series of ahkam that we have to learn. It will come as a nurani object. Namaz will come as a luminous thing that helps us. It will create angels. One hadith tells us that when you do wudu sincerely, every drop of wudu which you use, every drop of water of that wudu creates for you an angel in the hereafter that prays for you, seeks forgiveness for you. Here what do we see? We see water. We see droplets of water. Over there we will see something else. So, the hidden reality of the act of worship is what will transfer from here to there. The apparent level of worship is what will remain here. Now we have an interesting discussion. The discussion is this. Many people, Muslims and non-Muslims, what they say is that if we access the spirit of worship, if we access the spirit of worship, then we no longer need the worship. So they'll say to me, they'll say, Maulana, if I can access that inner reality of namaz without actually physically praying the namaz, then it's enough. Islam says no. Here there is a no-go area. Even if you access what you think is the reality, because there's no guarantee that that is the whole reality. That's the beauty of Islam. Things have been hidden from us in order for us to always be chasing it. The moment we stop chasing it, we have put a confinement on Islam. We have put a limit to Allah. The moment we say, now I have understood the wisdom of Allah in this thing, forget it. I might as well be Allah myself if I've understood Allah. It's impossible. Islam never reveals the full picture. It will always keep us chasing after it more and more, because there is no entire picture that we can ever bring into ourselves. Allah will always leave His wisdom undiscovered to a certain extent, because His wisdom is infinite and we are finite, we are limited. So there's no question of leaving the act. So we do not subscribe to those schools of thought who say that if you get to the secret of the worship, then you can leave the worship. No. Even if we understand 99% of the wisdom, there'll always be that 0.1% that we have not understood. So there's no question of leaving the ibadat. Ibadat is there to always polish us and take us to the next level at every stage, with one salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Ma'asumeen have two very special names. In some places the Ma'asumeen are known as Siratul Mustaqim. They are known by this name. They are the straight path. Why? Because they lived this reality. They understood the importance of accessing the deeper realities of worship. Another title of Ma'asumeen is Mizanul A'mal, the scales for the deeds. In other words, if you want to judge, is my namaz good? Is my Quran good? Is my humanitarian work good? Are my manners good? Measure them against the Ma'asumeen. If you can't say that your namaz is to the level of one of the imams, then you have a long way to go. And of course, no one is ever going to match that. So we are always in that constant struggle towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, this is why we read in history, when our beloved fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam, when the tyrant Yazid brings Imam into the courtyard of Sham, he treats Imam with utmost disrespect. He says, I don't know who this person is, in order to degrade the Imam, pretending not to know him. Imam stands up and delivers a khutbah. What does Imam say in that khutbah? What does he say? He starts to introduce himself. But he says it in a very beautiful way. He says, he doesn't say, I'm Ali son of Hussein. He says, Ana ibnu Makkah. Ana ibnu Mina. Ana ibnu Zamzam. Ana ibnu Safa. He says, you don't know me, let me introduce myself. I am the son of Makkah. I am the son of Mina. I am the son of the well of Zamzam. I am the son of the mountain of Safa. Why does he say this? What he's trying to show is that all of these deeds which are done by people, Hajj, Tawaf, Safa, Marwa, Taqseer, Namaz, all of these things done at these different places. The Ahlul Bayt and Imam and the Imam's lineage are the embodiment of those things. They actually represent those things. So what he was trying to say is that those actions which you do are actually, we embody them. If you want to see Makkah in reality as a walking, talking being, then that is the Imam. If you want to see the purity of the well of Zamzam and its miraculous nature, that is the Imam. You want to see the purity of the mountain of Safa, where so many things happen from the time of Adam to the time of Bibi Hajara, that is represented in the Imam. All of these things are represented in the Ahlul Bayt. So that is where we take our guidance from. Now let us come on to the question of this evening with one salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. How to make our intention pure and sincere. No act of worship can be accepted without intention. I can pray 100 rakats of namaz, but not make the intention of qurbatan ilallah, that will not be accepted. I can pray Quran without the intention of qurbatan ilallah, to seek nearness to Allah, that will not be accepted. I can keep hundreds of rozas, it will not be accepted without the intention. So intention in ibadat is wajib. It must be there. You cannot do any act of worship and call it worship without intention. Quran says in Surah Al-Mulk, 2nd verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. He is the one who created death and life, so that He may judge which of you is the best in deeds. Someone comes to our 6th Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma sadaq, and says, what is the meaning of this verse? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that He's created death and life to judge who is the best of deeds? This best of deeds, what does it mean? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam replies, he says, Laysa ya'ni aktharu amalan. This does not mean who does the most worship. Here we are not talking about quantity of worship. It doesn't matter who does the most worship. The important thing, the Imam goes on to say, وَلَكِنْ أَسْوَبُكُمْ عَمَلًا. The important thing is that you perform your worship correctly. What does correctly mean? He explains, وَإِنَّمَا الْإِسَابَةُ خَشْيَةُ اللَّهِ. By correct, what I mean is having fear and humility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we do any act of worship, be it namaz, be it Quran, be it serving others, anything that we do for the Lord should be done with humility and with fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the Imam says, to remain, this is very important, I want your full attention. To remain on an act until it becomes sincere is more difficult than the act itself. Think about it, brothers and sisters. We do worship, we do acts of worship, but to persevere and to keep doing an act of worship day by day with a conscious mind that I want this to become better and better until it becomes sincerely for Allah, is more important than the act itself. And an intention which, and more important than this, is your intention in which you do not expect praise from anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have actions, then we have perseverance in actions. That is more important. Then we have the intention behind the perseverance. That is the most important. So whenever we act, we have to make a note, a mental note, the namaz which I prayed this evening, was it better or worse than the one I prayed in the afternoon? Fajr. The namaz I pray at Fajr, is it going to be better than the one I prayed this evening or not? So we are constantly improving our acts of worship. One salawat, and then I have a story for you. Ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Ulama narrate that there was a very noble and pious man who had the habit of going to the masjid to offer his namaz. At Fajr time, one day, he goes through his normal routine. He wakes up, does his wuzu, puts on clean clothes, puts on perfume and attar, leaves his home, starts to walk to the masjid. It so happens that on that day, there is something in the road, he trips over and he falls over. Now, he trips over, he falls, he becomes very dirty, he's not happy, he can't go to the mosque like this. So he turns around and he goes home. He reaches home, he takes off his clothes, he puts on a new pair of clothes, he washes himself, he cleans himself, he does wuzu again, he says Bismillah, and he goes again. Second time he goes, he walks around the same area again, he trips over, he falls down, his clothes are dirty, he can't go to mosque like this. He gets up again, he goes home, he changes his clothes, he washes, he does wuzu again, and he leaves for a third time. On the third occasion, when he reaches this same place, he sees a man with a lamp standing there, lighting the path. He says, wow, you are such a wonderful person to light this path for me. I've already fallen here twice. The man says with the lamp, he says, actually, let me tell you, I am shaitan. So the man is now confused that why would shaitan be standing here holding a lamp for me to go to the mosque to pray? It doesn't make sense. So he says, how come you're here? Shaitan tells him, I made you fall on the first 2 times. My intention was that you would fall, you would become frustrated, you would become tired and angry, you would go home and you would say, forget it, I'm not going to the mosque today. But what you did was, you went home and you tidied up and you cleaned yourself and you left again. On the first occasion, Allah forgave half of your sins. On the second occasion which you came back, Allah forgave the other half. I was fearful that if it happens again and I try the same trick, then Allah will forgive the sins of all the people in this village. So therefore I'm here to guide you. Like I said, persevering on the action until it becomes sincere for Allah is more important than the action itself. Because that will help you to build your nafs and soul and strength in order to offer those actions in a better way. With one salawat bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let us finish with one of the hadith from Nahjul Balagha. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. He says that niyat, when we talk about niyat, it has levels. Niyat is not just one level. We can have very selfish niyat, we can have very selfless niyat. Mawla says, Inna qawman abadullaha raghbatan. There are some people who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they are greedy. Fatilka ibadatut tujjar. This is the worship of the traders, the wepari, yes, the businessmen. They worship like this. Why? Because they want something from Allah. Oh Allah, I'll give you something, I want something in return. They're doing wepar, they're doing business with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They'll give something here, they want something in return. Their greed is the thing which is driving them to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِنَّ قَوْمًا عَبَدُوا اللَّهَ رَهْبَةً فَتِلْكَ عِبَادَةُ الْأَبِيدِ. Another group of people, they worship Allah because they are scared of Him. They're scared of His fire. They're scared of the hell. They're scared of the punishments. They're scared of all those scary things which are mentioned in the Quran and Hadith. So what are they? They are slaves. It's almost like a slave driver is driving them to do worship because they're fearful. They're too fearful of him. This is the worship of slaves. وَإِنَّ قَوْمًا عَبَدُوا اللَّهَ شُكْرًا فَتِلْكَ عِبَادَةُ الْأَحْرَارِ. And there is yet a third group who worship Allah not out of greed, not out of fear, but because they have a sense of gratitude towards Allah. That is the worship of the free people. These people cannot be bound. Greed doesn't drive them. Fear doesn't motivate them. They have a sense of gratitude. Allah has done so much for me. The least I can do is to worship Him. Parents in the room will understand this. When you have to badger and tell your children to do something twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times to do something, and they don't do it, it's so annoying, isn't it? It makes our blood pressure high. And when they finally do it on the 5th, 6th or 7th time, even then it doesn't seem very special because you've nagged him so much to do it that now he does it, it almost feels like a burden. That I had to nag him so much to do that thing. Parents in the room, what if your son or daughter just did that thing out of a sense of responsibility? How sweet would it seem? Unbelievable, isn't it? It would be like a dream come true. We would all do sajda shukr if they did that. It would just be unbelievable because you feel so proud that my son or daughter actually did something as a sense of duty and responsibility. And that is the sweetest of the actions. Allah must be looking at us in the same way. Don't do it out of greed for what I'm going to give you. Don't do it out of fear. Do it because you owe me gratitude. Do it out of a sense of duty and a sense of responsibility. Inshallah, we'll discuss more on this tomorrow with one salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Imam Hussain alayhi salam has bid farewell to his beloved city of Medina. He has gone to the grave of Rasulullah. He has taken his wida from the grave of his grandfather. He has gone to the grave of his beloved mother Janab Fatima. He has bid al-wida to Janab Fatima. He is now embarking upon his journey. He gathers with him all his loved ones, his dear ones. He gathers with him tower of strength in Janab Abbas. He carries with him his beloved Ali Akbar. He carries with him his beloved Janab Qasim. He takes with him the babies such as Janab Ali Asghar. He takes with him the women folk such as Janab Zainab and Janab Sakina. And his intention at this moment is to go towards Makkah. It is coming to the season of Hajj. His intention was that I would be in Makkah during Hajj and I would do the Hajj pilgrimage. As he reaches Makkah, he is given news that the forces of Yazid are present in Makkah as well. Even in the Baytullah, the house of Allah, where the Quran says, وَمَنْ دَخَلَهُ كَانَ آمِنًا, whoever enters this place is safe. Hussein ibn Ali is not safe. They say that the forces of Yazid were present in Makkah in ihram with daggers and swords under their ihram, ready at any moment to kill our beloved Imam. Imam realizes that the situation is not safe in Makkah. He does not want any blood to be spilled in this sacred place. At the same time, Imam is receiving thousands of letters from different parts of the Muslim world. By now, the word has spread. Muawiyah is dead. Yazid is the illegitimate ruler on the throne. Hussein is dignified and honored and refused to bow down to Yazid. let us rally around Hussein. They didn't want Yazid. People knew Yazid. They knew what kind of person he was. They begin to rally around Imam Hussein. So they begin to write letters. And the majority of these letters, the bulk of these letters came from Kufa. The people of Kufa. Now, it's important that we recognize the role of the city of Kufa. We must realize that Kufa was the place where Imam Ali alayhi salam had kept his capital. He stayed for some years there. The other thing is that Kufa was always known as a place where armies either gathered or were based around Kufa. Hence, naturally, many of the soldiers of Amirul Mu'mineen were stationed in Kufa. Many of his generals were stationed in Kufa. Who were his generals? Janab Habib ibn Madahir, amazing soldier. Muslim ibn Awsaja, people like Hani ibn Urwa. All of these people stationed in Kufa were famous in the Muslim world for their bravery and their courage. So Imam is now receiving letters from Kufa. Imam says, before we go to Kufa, I'm going to send someone I love very, very much as my ambassador and as my emissary to Kufa. Look at the camp of Imam Hussein. He had Janab Abbas, he had Hazrat Ali Akbar, he had other companions. He selects from them all Hazrat Muslim ibn Aqil. And the way he selects him, he doesn't just write my cousin. He always referred to Hazrat Muslim as Akhi, my brother. He writes to the people of Kufa, قَدْ بَعَثْتُ إِلَيْكُمْ أَخِي وَابْنَ عَمِّي. I am sending to you my brother and my cousin. Imam Hussein and Janab Muslim, let me give you an idea of their closeness. The birth of Imam Hassan is in the same year as the birth of Hazrat Muslim. They were born in the same year. Imam Hassan and Hazrat Muslim are of the same age. Imam Hussein is born 1 year after Imam Hassan. The difference between Imam Hussein and Imam Hassan is 1 year. Hussein, the word Hussein, actually means mini Hassan, small Hassan. It's a trick of Arabic. If you change the word in a certain way, it means the small version of that thing. So you'll see, for example, Rajul means man. Rujail means small man. Hassan, Hussein. Kamil, Kumail. Sahil, Suhail, etc. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, and Janab Muslim. These are childhood friends. These people have grown up together. They know each other. They play together. They visit each other's houses. Imam sends Janab Muslim to Kufa. The father of Janab Muslim is of course Aqil. Aqil is the brother of our first Imam, one of the 4 sons of Janab Abu Talib. Aqil himself was a noble person. His speciality, all of the sons of Janab Abu Talib had their speciality. Ja'far was known for generosity. Talib was known for honor. Mawla Ali, we cannot count what he was known for. He was known for being the best in everything. We cannot count his sifat and his qualities. Aqil was known for his knowledge of what we call ansab, genealogy. This is why it's famously known that after the death of Janab Fatima, after the martyrdom of Janab Fatima, Mawla Ali comes to Hazrat Aqil and says, find me a wife from a brave family so that I can have a son to represent me in Karbala. Janab Abbas is born. Aqil knew about the genealogy of different tribes. In the life of Hazrat Aqil, we have this hadith from Rasulullah. He comes to his uncle, he comes to Aqil and says, Inni uhibbuka hubbain. I love you for two reasons. Number one, hubban laka. One, I love you for yourself. You are my cousin. I love you for that. And secondly, I love you because you will have a son. Inna waladaka maqtulun. Your son will be born and will be killed for the love of my son Hussein. And the best of Allah's angels will come to recite in his janazah when he dies. This is Hazrat Muslim ibn Aqil. Hazrat Muslim goes towards Kufa. When Hazrat Muslim arrives in Kufa, the people of Kufa are joyful. They rally around Hazrat Muslim. They give their allegiance to Hazrat Muslim on the name of Imam Hussein. Hazrat Muslim has thousands of people. Amongst these thousands of people, he has those great generals of Imam Ali, who were feared throughout the world as brave warriors. The news which reaches Imam Hussein is very positive. People sometimes ask, why did Imam leave when he knew he would be killed? Let's not be naive about history. Up until that point, Imam, it did not look like he would be killed. At that point, the confidence was high amongst the Ahlul Bayt. Of course, Imam knows in his ilm-e-ghaib what is to happen. But he has to operate on what he can see in front of him. He cannot operate on ilm-e-ghaib. Otherwise, none of the Imams would ever have died. So Imam and Imam's group are confident that we have supporters. We have people. The messages from Kufa are positive. And then Yazid sends someone to Kufa that we know today as Ibn Ziyad. La'natullah alayh. May the curses of God be upon him. Ibn Ziyad was that person who was known for his treachery and his tricks and his politics. What he does, he knows already that Muslim has arrived in Kufa. He decides to dress up like Imam Hussein. The days were not like today that we can just Google someone's name and we get their picture. No one knew what he looked like, except for a few. He rides into Kufa, dressed as Imam Hussein would dress. People come and flock around him. What does he do? He then realizes who are the people devoted to Imam Hussein. He makes a mental note. And he goes now, whilst Imam Hussein is still on the journey, he goes around and he starts to eliminate. They say he slaughtered thousands of people in Kufa. One by one, assassinations. Some of them who he couldn't kill because it would have been too dangerous for him. He imprisoned them. Some of them he bought with money. He paid them off. He bribed them. So by this time, the news is spreading in Kufa that Ibn Ziyad has realized what is going on and now he's going to take revenge. People will begin to become scared. Hazrat Muslim hears this news and he and Hani ibn Urwa, they get together and they speak about a plan. What they say is that Ibn Ziyad will come to one of the houses because he knows these people. And when he comes, the plan was, Muslim, you go and hide in the corner. And Ibn Ziyad will come and will talk. And when I give you the signal, you are to come out and kill him. So they are talking, and the companion of Hazrat Muslim gives him the signal. The signal was that I will take off my turban and put it onto the table. When I do this, you are to come and kill him. So he takes off his turban, he puts it down, and Muslim is not to be seen. Muslim does not come out. Again he picks up the turban, he puts it back onto his head, he carries on discussing with Ibn Ziyad. Now Ibn Ziyad is a sharp man. He's getting suspicious of what's going on. Again he takes off his turban and he puts it down. Again there's no sign of Hazrat Muslim. Ibn Ziyad is now very suspicious. He takes his leave and he goes. They ask Muslim, you received the signal, why did you not come out? Muslim says, I was not raised in a house to kill people from behind. I was raised in honor. My way is not to stab someone from behind. I will not do that. See the principles of Ahlul Bayt. See the principles of the upbringing of the first Imam. He could have done it, but it would be against his principles, so he doesn't. Ibn Ziyad bribes people, finds people, kills people, and eventually he discovers where Muslim is staying. Muslim, in that evening, he goes to Masjid Kufa. When he goes to Masjid Kufa, those thousands of people that had given bay'at to Hazrat Muslim on the name of Imam Hussein are nowhere to be seen. They say that maybe Muslim had tens of people with him when he started his prayer. At the end of the prayer, Muslim looks back. He sees one person or a handful. We have different narrations. By the time Hazrat Muslim leaves the mosque and reaches the door of the masjid, he has no one with him. This is Muslim son of Aqil, who was the brother of Imam Ali. In the city of Imam Ali, he has not even one single person with him. Muslim begins to roam the streets of Kufa. Everyone sees Muslim and shuts their door. No one calls Muslim. No one pays attention to Muslim. And here, the thirst and the heat is getting to Muslim. He sits down at one place. He's exhausted. How much can he walk around with doors being slammed in his face? One of the ladies of Kufa, she opens her door. She sees Hazrat Muslim is sitting there. She doesn't know him. She says, what do you want here? He says, can I ask you for some water? She says, of course I will give you water, but first tell me, who are you? He says, I am Muslim. She says, Muslim son of who? He says, Muslim son of Aqil. She says, Aqil who? He says, Muslim son of Aqil, son of Abu Talib. He says, she says, do you mean you are the nephew of my Mawla Ali? Are you Muslim who is related to Ali and Hussein and Hassan? You are in this state, you are alone in Kufa. You are sitting outside my house asking for water. She invites him inside. She gives him shelter. She gives him a place to stay. She narrates in history that I have not seen anyone like I saw Hazrat Muslim worshipping Allah like he worshipped that night. The whole night he was in sajda. All I could hear was worship of Allah. Ayats of the Quran. Quran was recited. Zikr of Allah was done. But come near the morning time, her treacherous son who was loyal to Ibn Ziyad, he sees that this is none other than Muslim son of Aqil. He goes and he tells Ibn Ziyad, and he says, the person for whom you are searching is in my house. Ibn Ziyad dispatches a force and they come to the house and they surround Hazrat Muslim. They say that they could not reach Hazrat Muslim. Hazrat Muslim was such a brave warrior. They resorted to two cowardly acts in order to capture Hazrat Muslim. The first was that they began to throw stones from all directions upon Hazrat Muslim. Hazrat Muslim becomes wounded. Hazrat Muslim becomes tired, but still he fights. The next thing they do is that they bring very long lances and spears, and they begin to hit Hazrat Muslim with these spears. Hazrat Muslim has no more strength left. He falls to the ground. He begins to cry. The forces of Ibn Ziyad tell him, "You are crying." He says, "I am not crying for myself. I am crying because my brother Hussein is on his way to Kufa. He thinks that Kufa is loyal to him. He thinks there are people here who are going to support him." Hazrat Muslim is dragged through the streets of Kufa. He is taken to the palace of the governor. He is put upon the roof. They say to him, "Muslim, do you have any final requests?" He says, "I have 3 things to ask. Number 1, I owe someone money. Can you make sure that he is paid from my estate?" They said, "Yes, we will do this." He says, "Number 2, I want to have a burial which is as per Islamic law." They said, "Muslim, we are not going to give you this. Once you are beheaded, your body will be dragged through the streets of Kufa." He says, "Then thirdly, I have my final request. My brother Hussein is coming. Allow me to send a message to Hussein." They say, "Muslim, we will not do this." It's said that they beheaded Hazrat Muslim. First of all, his head fell to the floor, and then his body was toppled from the palace of the governor onto the floor. At that moment, people who were fearful of their lives, ajrukum alallah, may Allah not give you any grief except for the grief of Imam Hussein. They say at that moment, 2 riders leave Kufa. They are fearful. They reach Imam Hussein in the route. Imam Hussein is on his way to Kufa. Imam Hussein stops them and says, "I recognize that you are from Kufa. Tell me of the news of my brother Muslim. How is he?" They say, "Imam, it's better you do not ask us. Your brother has been killed." Imam looks to Janab Zainab. Bibi Zainab looks to Imam Hussein. Imam says, "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un." Bibi Zainab has understood what has happened. And then Imam, what does Imam do? Our kind and loving Imam, he says to Janab Zainab, "Bring me Hamida, the young daughter of Hazrat Muslim. Let her come to me." Imam takes the daughter of Muslim. He puts her onto his lap. He takes his hand. He begins to stroke the head of Hamida. He begins to kiss Hamida. Hamida says, "Oh my uncle, have I become yatim? Have I become orphaned?" Imam Hussein says, "Why do you ask?" She says, "I have seen in our family, whenever we take the orphans, we do this to them. We kiss them. We stroke their heads. Oh Imam, this was such a noble gesture. You are so loving to Hamida. But we ask you, where were you on the day of Ashura, on Sham-e-Ghariba, when Sakina was running from tent to tent, when the earrings were pulled, when her kurta, when her shirt was put on fire, when she was slapped by Shimr? Where were you, O Imam?" Allah la'natullahi al-qawmi al-zalimeen wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayyaman qalbiyan qalibun. Oh Allah, we ask you with the haqq of Imam Hussein to give us tawfiq, to forgive our sins, to bless our marhumeen, to hasten the appearance of our 12th Imam. Oh Allah, bring to an end all of these evil groups who are purporting and pretending to represent Islam, whether they be in Syria, Iraq or anywhere else. Oh Allah, bring their tyranny to an end. Oh Allah, make the heart of Imam Zamana happy with us. Oh Allah, make the ruh, the arwah of Ahlul Bayt happy with us. Oh Allah, we pray to you that in this month of Muharram, inspire us with the inspiration of Imam Hussein. Make our jawans like the jawans of Imam Hussein. Make our children like the children of Imam Hussein. Make our ladies like the ladies of Imam Hussein. Make our elders like that shining example of Habib ibn Mazahir. Oh Allah, bless us with Imam Hussein and the ashab of Imam Hussein. Let us remember all our marhumeen with Al-Fatiha.